Well, it's Sunday morning and you're in front of your computer or your screen of some sort, which must mean it's time for Doodling with Purpose. Well, actually, you don't have to watch these when they come out on Sundays, but hey, consistency is fun. All right, let's jump right into studying hieroglyphics by looking at the homework from last week and trying to use a lot of the vocabulary we've been studying and throwing in a few words from, well, way back when lessons. So, like always, the first thing we're going to do is transliterate it, making sure to put both the sounds and the sound complements, like that first word, her, with the underline there. It makes it her. All right, and if you recall, this is a word we learned long ago. It's before. The next word is from last week's vocabulary. We have winnen, which is the word for hour. And this is followed by the word wa'a, which is solitude. So we have before the hour of solitude. So here I've added the word the and of into it. A lot of, articles don't exist in ancient Egyptian. The word of does exist, but it can often be, left out. So that's why you're going to want to add those in. Sort of sprinkle in the English. All right. Next up, we have a proper noun, king, or again, you could say the king, or it could be a king. So again, articles help you to understand the translation. Next up, we have the adjective hungry. So what type of king is it? It's a hungry king, like a hungry, hungry hippo, except not a hippo. All right, and what did this hungry king do? Well, he commanded or was commanding, depending on the exact translation. And who was he commanding? Well, first he was commanding his vizier, a word we learned last week, and then from a few weeks ago, the vizier is his vizier, so we have the horned viper, and then the word generals, so it's shared with his, so it's his vizier and his generals, and that's part of the way hieroglyphs work, is they'll often share those different description words. So it could be and his generals or just his generals, again, adding the necessary articles and modifiers to make it actually flow like a sentence. It's one of the trickier parts, but not too tricky once you get the handle on it. All right, let's wrap up our bilateral sounds. Last week we did the bunny rabbit, which was wun, and there's another wun, this one. So the bunny rabbit's a little bit harder to draw, so if you want an easier one to draw to make the same sound, this is a flower. I mean, not that kind of flower. All right, so flower plus hill plus pot plus determinative, right? Remember that animals at the end are always determinatives, so you could probably already figure out, based on my crude drawing, what this is, hopefully. But interestingly, if you look at the way it's spelled, wundwa and then nua, well, it's kind of like the word beer. We did this one long ago, and I reminded you of it last week. Beer is one of those weird words where it's spelled hakut, H, then a K like the qu in queen and T, but there's a silent N in it, what I would call a ghost glyph. So essentially the glyph is not there, but you're going to make the sound anyway. How do you know this? It's just like, I before E except after C and neighbor way and, that kind of thing. It's just one of those weird parts about Egyptian that with some words you just get used to. Now this is the reverse of a ghost because it's there, but you don't actually pronounce it. The NW is there to even out the spacing of the word so it looks aesthetically pleasing. Now, another word that's going to start with flower. Did I say that was the word goat? That was the word goat. Okay. So here we have another one starting with the flower, the WN, followed by an M sound that's not there, a T, and then we have multiple determinatives, including a plural. So again, we have a ghost glyph, an M that's not there. It's pronounced winmet, winmet. And much like beer, it's a sound glyph that just doesn't appear there. Again, because if you hedged in another N, it would throw off the aesthetic value. So this is the word food. And again, you'll notice that there's multiple determinatives. First, you have a man pointing to his mouth. Then you have a box of, or a plate of food, a loaf, and then the plural. So the bucket, the loaf, the plural, the man eating, all helps to remind you that this is the word food. All right, last but not least, for our flower glyph of WN, here we have WN followed by N, and then a B, and then a determinative. How do you know it's a determinative? Because you've never seen this glyph before. If it's a glyph that we haven't gone over in the single, bilateral, or trilateral sounds, it's a determinative, and after crossing off the echo effect, we have winib, flower. All right, closing out our bilateral sounds, we have whip, which is a bull head, or the horns more of a bull. And I always think of like whip, like you got to whip the bull, like whip it good. I don't know, it helps. All right, so here we have whip with p, t, y, and now look at those determinatives. We have the running feet, and we have a person. And when the man is pointing up with his other hand in that V position, it means a person's occupation, as opposed to when he's pointing to his lips. So this is similar. You've seen this, the running glyph in verbs that mean movement, like expedition. Now, if you have the movement, plus you have a person showing his occupation, what do you think this word is, just based on the determinatives? Well, if you think about it, moving, and it's your job, you're a messenger. So this is the word whoopty, messenger, after getting rid of those echo effects, of course. Another interesting word spelled with the whoop sound, the bull's leg, is this one here. It's a combination of ra and whoop, where the sun for ra is placed inside of the horns. It's, again, to make it look aesthetically pleasing. So this also has a ghost glyph to it, a T, because, well, it's sort of there to help you say the word, whooped, whooped. Otherwise, it's just whoop, and then ra at the end. So whooped ra, whooped ra. This is the word for the first day of a new month, which was very important to the cycle of life in ancient Egypt, and why it was more of a holy glyph. All right, last bilateral glyph. Then we'll move on to the trilaterals, which there's not that many of. There's way more bilaterals. This is a WR sound, a Ren making WR. Now, it's a little odd to draw. It starts with a line, and then you curve up for the body. Actually, I'm just going to doodle this one because it's an interesting one. It's the only bird where you actually go up and make the bird's head and then curve down the neck. So it's very unique in that sense. Then you do a diagonal down and up for the tail feather, and then the usual legs, give them something to stand on, and a little eye detail. So this is WR. And you'll notice that the WR glyph is almost always placed above the mouth glyph, much like the fish is placed often above the water sign as a pun. So here we have whoosh, whoosh, with that second R being canceled due to the echo effect, and then the raw sun disc as a determinative. This is the word for to spend the whole day. Kind of like the French word journée. Journée means to go the whole day, like a journey took the whole day. Journée. All right. Were with an R, just the bird and the mouth. This is the word great. We've seen this before. You'll see it again. It's a very common modifier. All right. And then finally, this one, another one you would, if you knew what the determinative was, you could instantly tell what it is. It's a very common item in sacrifices and honorific religious festivals. So were, and the determinative there, I know you may not know what it is, but it's an ointment holder or ointment jar. So yes, this is the word ointment, commonly used in lots of religious practices. All right, so here we go. We've got homework for next week, and I've sprinkled in lots of words from this week's lesson. Next week, we're moving on to the trilateral sounds. And then at the end of that, we'll go back to tenses and really working on structure. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating and doing your homework. I hope you enjoyed this. Please do share with others if you enjoyed. It's the best way to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for more doodling with purpose.